What are you doing, Stu? Oh, okay. Well, now I've got an upset cat. I'm trying to make a video. Oh dear. Oh, there she goes. Okay. Goodness. Okay. Hey guys. Good morning. Good afternoon. It's been it's been a week. It's been over a week. It's been about 10 days, I think, since I last talked to you guys. Hopefully things are going well. I know that we are just kind of, rolling with the punches, kind of moving along. I myself am trying to, stay a little sane. It's just me at the house, so that's gonna be kind of a little interesting. So hopefully you guys had a great Easter. Got to spend time with your family. I know you probably didn't get to spend much time with friends, but those who I see kind of, I've seen a lot of people who are doing a lot of fun stuff, kind of trying to simulate kind of being with friends. That's kind of really cool. So, by the way, this is my cat Stu. I don't know if she's featured in a video yet or not. She is currently spending some time outside. She's not been a huge fan of me being home, and so she's gotten in the habit of peeing on things. So we're trying to figure out what's the best solution for her. But she spends her mornings and her afternoons now outside. Let's see how that goes. So anyway, guys. Also, I made some bread, some sourdough bread. So and there's the cat who wants the bread. All right, so I'm gonna set this. Okay, let's get started. So you guys read the sunflower over the break, okay? And you guys should have. There we go. And you should have some instructions on which parts of the symposium you need to read. So we don't need to worry about that yet. That's something you need to be working. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be rough. Okay, something you need to be working on, but you don't need to be worried about it too much yet. Okay, so I just wanted to start off, I guess, talking about my reactions to the sunflower itself. It is, as many of the stories do go, it's a story. It's something I came across when I was at my final semester of undergraduate. So I read this book when taking a history/religious studies course called The Holocaust and Its Impact. So that's kind of really what kind of set me on this trajectory towards really wanting to talk about and study the Holocaust. I've read this book, I want to say 3 or 4 times now. And every single time I think I'm still blown away by how Simon kind of responds to what's going on in this text. He is put into a impossible situation. He is asked to provide forgiveness for the behalf of a crime that was not committed against him. And I guess I always respect Simon for the fact that he makes the really hard choice to say nothing and to do nothing, and that Carl dies without ever getting sort of an answer. And yet, in some fashions, it seems that was an answer for Carl, because he gave Simon sort of the his items, his things. I always have a lot of anger towards Carl. I have a lot of anger towards Carl for kind of his very act of what he does. One thing you guys are going to read about with in the symposium is that the fact that Carl, I don't know, for me, I guess I see it this way. Carl often says, he wants to talk to Simon. He wants to kind of talk to a Jewish person so he can kind of get it off his chest, and he asks for forgiveness. And in some senses, I guess I wonder and I get angry about whether or not Carl is actually understanding what he's requesting and what he's doing, and that he is, making a request of a Jewish person who has no connection to him. And so in that sense, he sort of sees the Jewish people as maybe one monolith, and that's kind of problematic. In that same breath, though, I always explain that to students, and some students kind of push back and say a few things. One, they say that Carl wasn't really in a position to ask for the people he needed to ask for, and he did what he could in his time. And so I guess that's a fair thought. I don't know, I was pushed back again. I don't know, I just struggle with, I don't really want to like Carl, to be nice to Carl. So there's that. In that same breath, though, one thing I've often stated is that, and what talked about a lot, and you'll find the symposium authors talk a lot about, is they'll say something like that Carl asked for a Jew, any Jew, and we actually find out that Carl doesn't actually make that explicit statement anywhere in the text. So Just kind of be aware of that. The other thing I want to kind of really think about is sort of what we're being asked to think about in this book. Simon asks us to think about what these really complicated natures of forgiveness are, because it's not as simple as like, yes, we should forgive him, or no, because it's I think, I don't know, I guess it'd be different if Carl had impacted Simon personally. Maybe that would be kind of a different reaction. Another thought would be like, maybe if and I guess I think about that. I think a lot about the fact that how Simon responds to his mother, to Carl's mother, when she kind of appears in the narrative, and how she kind of carries this delusion response. And one thing I always think is interesting is the fact that she kind of asks for absolution about what Carl did, and Simon doesn't provide any clarity, and he just kind of lets the mother think what she wants to think about her son. And one thing that's the question that the symposium authors will talk about is whether or not even that's okay. Like, is it, does Simon have a responsibility to tell her the truth? And does he have a responsibility to shatter her perceptions of her son? And I don't know, I guess, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on that too. I'm trying really hard to not share with you guys my personal opinions about everything, but at the same time, I also want you guys to think about some of the bigger questions here. Another thing I guess about this book is I'm always struck by Josek's faith. And I guess I'll kind of just talk about that for a second. Whenever Simon kind of goes to talk to Josek and Arthur, there was a lot of forgiveness that Josek offers that I think is just so powerful, and yet I always find it so hard to believe. Not that I would doubt his faith at all, but more instead I think that he's just I just think that he's exemplary in his faith, is I guess where it's at. But Arthur, I guess, on the other hand, he is really interesting because of the fact that he's very pragmatic. I guess I'm thinking about the beginning of the text. Let me try to find the spot in between my cat trying to eat my food and me holding my food. He says something to the effect of like that. I can't find it right now, but he basically just talks a lot about. Oh, here we go. This is page 7. This is when they're talking about Cain and Abel. He says, Josek, I am prepared to believe that God created a Jew out of this tear-soaked clod of earth, but you expect me to believe he also made our camp commandment, build a house out of the same material? You are forgetting Cain, replied Josek, and you are forgetting where you are. Cain slew Abel in anger, but he never tortured him. Cain had a personal attachment to his brother. We are strangers to our murderers. And I always find that part really compelling, because we're often tasked with thinking about the impossible. So, my final note, I guess. Sorry, I know I'm kind of rambling. Sorry. My final note is really I want to talk about the fact that we have this one of the men in the camps. He plays this music, and I really want to know what you guys think about that. Within the camps themselves, we get this like information about he like does like these songs, and he's very sadistic, and it's kind of weird in a lot of senses. And I think I always wonder why we do that, and I think the answer to that has to do with we're forced to see that these people are still people, even if they're inhumane and do inhumane things. And so I can't remember the guy's name right now, and I can't find the passage, and I don't want to take too much of your time. But there's a guy who like makes music and like plays all these marches and whatnot. And when he's doing that, he is often, it's really creepy because he like cries when he like plays like I think it's Wagner. And I think what we're forced to reconcile with is that these are real people who do real things and kind of have their own kind of ambitions and kind of do their own, have their own pleasures, and that they appreciate art, and that they are at the end of the day human, even though they are doing inhumane things. And I think maybe the question we have to consider is why does Wiesenthal think it's important to include such details about the humanity of these characters when it's so easy to write them off as inhuman? So that's a thought. I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll have some discussion questions off of it. We'll kind of see how the rest of this week goes. So thanks. Bye.